What I wanted to do is pick up a few interesting things from Vyasa's Mahabharata, which not only are interesting stories, but also give us some idea as to what the underlying philosophy behind it is. Anytime we try to read Mahabharata, the word Dharma comes in everywhere. Dharma Raja, Yudhishthira, he is the main character, king of Dharma. There is no precise translation in English for the word Dharma. Dharma can be looked upon as people say righteous living. Dharma is action. Dharma is duty. So Dharma is a word that is very hard to put your hand on. Even Bhishma has difficulty explaining what Dharma is. He says Dharma is sukshma. Sukshma is subtle. I cannot explain to you any beyond that. If you go back and look at the definition of Dharma, in the Vishnu Sahasranama it says, Achara Prathamo Dharma. Achara is the highest Dharma. What is Achara? Achara means simply say good conduct. Well, that opens up a lot of possibilities because what conduct is good for you may not be so good for somebody else. So what is good conduct? In the context of the society that you live in, it should be good conduct. Okay? For example, if you live in the United States, to have a glass of wine is perfectly acceptable. But if you live in Saudi Arabia, it is strictly prohibited. So what is okay here may not be okay someplace else. So when they say Achara Prathamo Dharma, he is talking about good conduct in the context of the society, the environment that you live in. That's one definition of Dharma. Then you also say Ahimsa Prathamo Dharma. Ahimsa is the highest form of Dharma. Then you say Satya is the highest form of Dharma. Truth, highest form of Dharma. In Yaksha Prashna, where Yudhishthira is being questioned by the Yaksha, remember I shared the story with you, and Yaksha asked Yudhishthira, tell me, what is the highest form of Dharma? Yudhishthira say, Andrushamsyam. Andrushamsyam. That means compassion is the highest form of Dharma. Yudhishthira says that. Then Yudhishthira asks Bhishma in the Vishnu Sahasranama Stotra, among all the dharmas, which is the highest dharma? And Bhishma responds to him, single-pointed devotion to God is the highest form of dharma. So you see, it covers a whole variety of spectrums. Then if you go to Taittiriya Upanishad, in the Shikshavali, where the teacher is giving the final convocation address to the students, he says, Satyam Vada, Dharmam Chara, speak the truth, do your duty. There are no qualifications. If you don't think about the ramifications, you may get into a lot of trouble if you simply Satyam Vada, Dharmam Chara. This is the reason why it always says, when you study the Upanishads, you need the help of a competent guru to explain the implications of that. Dr. Sane has shared the story many times, and I have shared the story with you too. Satyam Vada. Kaushika Muni was sitting in his ashrama, meditating. Suddenly he heard somebody crying and running with disheveled hair, obviously very, very distraught. And so she is hiding behind his ashrama. Then two thugs came running after a few minutes and asked him, hey, Swami, did you see a woman go by here? what should your Swami do? Satyam vada. Yeah, I saw her. She's right there behind the ashram. I've told my truth, spoken the truth. I followed the Upanishads. I am free. But was it Dharma? Answer is no. Because he does not know the entire situation. They might take her, molest her, rob her, beat her, who knows what. He doesn't know the background. So in that respect, he has to have examined the implications of Satyam Vada before he blurted out the answer. So what is the correct answer? Kaushika Muni was a smart Muni, and he recognized that. So he recognized the implications of what he is going to say. So he kind of looked at these two people, he was very annoyed. Look, I'm in meditation. This is my Rishyashrama. What do you mean, woman? What's the woman doing in my ashrama? There's no place for men. So they ran away, they went away. And then the woman who were hiding behind his ashrama, she was quite relieved. Then she goes back to her village. So you see, when the Upanishad says Satyam Vada, Dharmam Chara, we have to look into the context. Otherwise, if we don't examine in detail, it is not going to be a very satisfactory thing. So with so many definitions of what Dharma is, we have to, the reason I brought this variant, then there is Ashrama Dharma, Grihastha Ashrama Dharma, Brahmacharya Ashrama Dharma, Grihastha Ashrama Dharma, Dharma of a Vanaprasthi, Dharma of a sannyasi. Then there is Varna Dharma, duty of a Brahmin, Dharma of a Kshatriya, Dharma of a Vaishya, Dharma of a Shudra. Then there is Raja Dharma, Dharma of the king. What is the king's Dharma? So, in that respect, Dharma can be looked upon as one's duty, but the question is, what is it? Who decides what it is? So this became a big issue over the years because there's a lot of confusion about Dharma. Everybody is saying that what I say is correct, and so is there any common denominator that tells you what action that you took was in accordance with Dharma or against the Dharma? So there's no single definition. You may look up Dharma in the most general terms as the moral compass for your actions. When you're driving a car, you see a red light, a green light, a yellow light, so that tells you whether you can proceed, whether you have to be cautious, whether you have to stop. So Dharma acts as a moral compass for your actions. You have to think before you act. There are 4 things that determine Dharma. Manu says, in Manu Shastra, he says 4 things determine Dharma. What is Dharma? These are Shruti, the Vedas, Smriti, the Itihasas, Ramayana, Mahabharata and other things. Good, noble conduct as accepted by society, called Sadachara, and one's own joy and pleasure. Swasya cha priyam atmanaha. Does it make you feel good? If it makes you feel good, with no anxiety, then what you did perhaps is okay. If you wake up in the morning and say, I shouldn't have done it, then perhaps you shouldn't have done it. So it acts as a swasya cha priyam atmanaha. That action which gives joy to you without causing anxiety in you. Those are the 4 things. In other words, we can usually tell when we are performing actions if it is dharma or not by questioning. Is it sanctioned by the Shruti and the Smriti? Does it follow the society's code of ethics, Sadachara? And does it give me joy and not grief? So if those 4 things are satisfied, then your action is dharmic, otherwise it is questionable, a dharmic action. Of course, an action may be legal or illegal. That depends on the rules laid out in a country. The Constitution tells you whether it's legal or illegal. What is legal in this country may be illegal in another country. You can chew gum in this country. They'll throw you in jail if you chew gum in Singapore. So what is legal here is maybe illegal someplace else. So legality and illegality cannot be judged by the action itself, but by the constitution of the particular country you live in. In the same way, by knowing the Shruti and the Smriti, they act as the constitution, whether your action is dharmic or not. In other words, Shruti and Smriti are our constitution. That's the reason why they are important for us. Although an action may be legal, it's not always considered moral. Or an action may be both legal and moral, but does not bring us any happiness. So our actions must be in accord with all the four things mentioned above. That's called Chaturveda Dharma Lakshana, the four aspects of Dharma. So religion, in some sense, gives us an injunction as to what is Dharma, what is Adharma. The Ten Commandments in the Christian tradition, Yama Niyama in the Patanjali's Yama Niyamas, those are our injunctions. They're general guidelines. Many situations in life do not have clear black and white solution, a lot of gray. So one must examine each situation carefully to decide if dharma is adhered to or not. The first aspect, Smriti tells us, Achara Pratamo Dharmaha. In the following dharma, the first and foremost is good conduct in life. Achara is the ability to determine whether your actions are in accordance with the moral and ethical values of society that you live in. This is why you look up to elders in the society. They're also called acharas. Acharya, we say. Acharya means one who has very good conduct. One may be well versed in the Vedas, perform all the rituals, but if the conduct is not virtuous, then his erudition is useless. Misbehaving television evangelists, misbehaving swamis, they may say all the things they want, but if the conduct is not good, society will reject them. A person with little scholarship and learning, but whose conduct is good, will be much more respected by others than the pseudo Acharya. See, Ravana was a great devotee of Shiva, but his conduct was not very virtuous. Hiranyakashipu was a man of great rituals and penance, but he had no love, he had no compassion, and he had no sympathy for others. So you see, just merely being devoted to God is not enough. Translate it into Acharya. Another important meaning of Achara Pratamo Dharmaha is you should do your duty first before asking lots of questions. Reason being, if you follow your own likes and dislikes all the time, then your judgment gets clouded and you may not know how to act in different circumstances. That's why your mother says, do it. Don't ask too many questions, just do it. For a period of time as you grow up, when you mature, your thinking becomes mature, you will recognize why it is important that you did what you did. So duty before questions is important. The two important meanings of Achara Pratamo Dharma are that do your prescribed duty before asking a lot of questions, and in spiritual life, good behavior is the foremost importance. You may have performed many rituals, built many temples, given many discourses on Vedanta, But if your conduct remains poor, these actions have little or no meaning. Actions that give joy. The fourth indication of dharma is whether an action gives joy. It's important. If the action causes agitation or guilt, then we say, why did I do that? Maybe I shouldn't have. You shouldn't have. It's a moral compass. Even though it may be appropriate, it may be shruti, it may be follow smriti, it may be sadachara, if it doesn't give you that internal joy and happiness, it's probably not your dharma. At the same time, though I may like and enjoy something, the question is it always dharmic things to do? You have to always ask, if you enjoy something that you like to do and enjoy it, you should think about what is its effect on your life, on your mind, other people's lives. For example, I may say, I feel very happy when I drink. That's my dharma. But if Shruti and Smriti don't approve of it, then it's not a dharmic action. Shruti and Smriti say it's not to drink. A still deeper implication of swasyacha priyam atmana is the following. That is, we care for our happiness. We do not want sorrow in our lives. And we should respect the fact others also want to be happy, others also don't want sorrow in their lives. So a dharmic action does not agitate other people. It doesn't cause any agitation. It doesn't cause any unhappiness in other people. To destroy, harm, or hurt other people is not according to dharma. So although determination of dharma is not easy, it can become simple in practice. If you have a sincere desire to live a good life, free of deceit, and if you're completely honest with yourself, I can assure you that your life is according to dharma. You don't have to go through any bigger erudition than that. If you constantly doubt, did I do that right? Did I do this right? Perhaps it's not a dharmic action. So there are essentially two types of dharma in broad classification. One is called Sanatana Dharma, which is the eternal, universal values that should be followed by people irrespective of nationality, age, profession, or situation in life. And the second, called Varnashrama Dharma, is specific duties given to each individual with respect to his or her own age, sex, status in society, and so on and so forth. Universal and more pointed. The word dharma literally means that which holds everything together, that which integrates the personality and unifies the society is dharma. So if people say he's together, everything seems to be going okay with him, the dharmic person. If a lot of those people in a society, then society will be dharmic. According to Manu, there are 10 values in life that characterize dharma and should be followed by all people. Sanatana Dharma. This is irrespective of nationality, the age, gender, station in life, etc. These are dhriti, or fortitude and forbearance, kshama, forgiveness or the ability to endure cheerfully, dhamma, control over your actions, asteya, non-stealing, shaucha, purity, inner and external purity, indriya nigraha, mastery over the organs of perception, dhi, using the faculty of reasoning, vidya, knowledge, satya, truthfulness, and akrodha, absence of anger. And these values are for all, at all times, they are called sanatana, which means eternal and universal. So what is fortitude? Dhriti. We talked about in Gita chapter 18, we talked about three kinds of dhriti, tamasic dhriti, rajasic dhriti, and sattvic dhriti. Tamasic dhriti is holding on to things such as sleep, food, and wrong notions. Rajasic dhriti, holding on to money, power, and pleasure, for which you are willing to do anything. Sattvic dhriti is the ability to rise above all obstacles, difficulties, and doubts while pursuing noble goals in life. A person with a sattvic dhriti may get tired, may be discouraged, and even question, why am I doing all of these things instead of enjoying life like everybody else? But I must hold on to this goal. It's important for me. So every time we mention dhriti in Mahabharata, it is sattvic dhriti. Dhriti is very important. Forgiveness, kshama, or accommodation. Highest form of forgiveness is when the feeling of being offended doesn't even arise in the first place. One man felt very offended by something his wife had done. And wife begged him, please forgive me, forget it, let's get on with our lives. He said, okay, I'll forgive you. But once in a while he would remind her, remember, I've forgiven you? That's really not forgiveness at all. You're hanging on to it. Control of the organs of action, dhamma, we already know. If you get angry and immediately want to slap the other person, it's not dhamma. You're not exercising restraint. If you're able to control the feeling of anger arising in your mind and not translate it into action, you have dhamma. In other words, don't act impulsively. Non-stealing asteya. Don't even think about appropriating somebody else's property. You don't have any right to deprive somebody else's property, wealth or property or anything else. Purity. Shaucha means purity, purity of both the body and the mind. Outwardly our actions might look noble, but inwardly our attitude might not be all that good. So purity requires both internal and external purity. Mastery over the senses, we have already seen that many, many times. Discrimination of reasoning. Faculty of discrimination means you are able to calmly think about what is right and what is wrong, what should be pursued, what should not be pursued, and therefore that's an important one. Knowledge, both secular knowledge and Atma Gnana. Truthfulness, Satya. When you make a promise, fulfill it. When you speak the truth, let it be pleasant. Let it be pleasant. Always verify the truth as much as you can before you say it. Speak the truth as long as it does not cause unnecessary harm to innocent people. Okay? Without anger. Akrodha means try not to react to situations. Anger is a reaction. It's not your svabhava. It's not your svabhava. Everybody says, I'm very happy today. But nobody says, I'm very angry today. It's not your svabhava. So try to reason out the reason behind the action and then try to act accordingly. It's okay to be angry if you want to discipline somebody. Don't just bottle it up all the time. It could be very harmful to you. But exercise your reasoning is what it says. Practice these values, Manu says, daily and completely, and don't complain. Somebody else is not following this. Just because somebody else took poison doesn't mean you should take poison too. So whether other people follow or not shouldn't be your concern. If you adhere to these principles, as time goes on, others will see the value themselves, and then slowly they may also come to follow your example. So these 10 universal values is called Sanatana Dharma. Varnashrama Dharma is the fulfillment of our duties given to us according to our station or stage in life, and anything that you perform should be with an attitude of worship, offered to the Lord for the benefit of the entire society. So that is brief description of what Dharma is. Now, Draupadi's Dharma is totally different from Yudhishthira's Dharma. Bhima's Dharma is different from Arjuna's Dharma. Duryodhana, of course, had his own Dharma. Karna had his own Dharma. So when we talk about these various characters, I'll try to highlight what it is that they believed in as their duty in society and what it is that they believed was not their duty in society. The particular thing that I want to talk about today is after the 18 days war is over, 18 parvas in the Mahabharata, 18-day war, 18 chapters in the Bhagavad Gita, or 18. After the war was over, the Kaurava army was totally destroyed. Pandavas have lost from 1,000, tens of thousands of soldiers, animals, elephants, chariots, horses. Duryodhana flees the battlefield. He is very hurt. He is aching all over and hides inside a lake called Dvaipayana lake. He is hiding underneath the lake. He had remarkable yogic powers, so he could stay inside under the water and still be able to survive, to breathe. He was humiliated, he was tired, and he was bitter after losing the war. By his power of Maya, he was able to stay underwater for long periods of time. The Pandavas wondered where Duryodhana was. They've been looking for him, and they can't find him. They are accompanied by Krishna. They're looking around. They can't find him. In the meantime, 3 members of the Kaurava surviving, Kripa, Kritavarma, and Ashwatthama, those 3 people were surviving. Duryodhana had the 4 Kauravas survived. Kripa, Kritavarma, Ashwatthama, and Duryodhana. In the Pandavas, 7 people survived. Pancha Pandavas, Sri Krishna, and Satyaki. 7 Pandavas, nobles survived, and 4 noble Kauravas survived. But they locate Duryodhana. And they try to persuade him to come out of the lake and fight the Pandavas. Rajan, Uttishta! Rajan, Uttishta! He says, Rajan means king. Uttishta means get up. Get up. Rise up from the lake. Join us in fighting Yudhishthira. If you are victorious, enjoy ruling the kingdom. If you were to die in battle, enjoy heaven, which is fit for only brave people like you. Either way, you go to heaven. Heavenly life. Come on, get up and fight. Duryodhana said in a weak voice, can't you leave me alone for a while? I'm tired. I want to rest. I've lost most of my strength. My mind is not clear. I want to regain my strength first before facing the Pandavas. Well, they were exchanging this conversation. Some hunters happened to pass by and they overheard what was going on. And they knew Duryodhana was hiding in the lake. If they could convey this information to Bhima, they would get rewarded. So they decided to go and tell Bhima, we know where Duryodhana is. Give us our bakshis. We'll be on our way. So they collect their bakshis and go away. After a while, Bhima, after hearing where Duryodhana was hiding, they rewarded the hunters and went jubilantly to Yudhishthira and said, I am so happy to announce to you, brother, that we found where Duryodhana is hiding. So let's go and drag him out to the lake and fight him. So Yudhishthira and his brothers, Krishna and some soldiers went to the lake. The soldiers were shouting loud, and Duryodhana had been found. Duryodhana has been found. Duryodhana could hear all of these things, and he was quite concerned. He became very agitated. As the Pandavas arrived at the lake, Yudhishthira tells Krishna, he is hiding under the water. He is not afraid of anyone. With his Maya, he is sitting at the bottom of the lake. He has used deceit all his life, but he will not escape me. Even if Indra were to come to his aid, there is no doubt that he will be killed. When I first read that, Vishtabhya Sariram Shete Nyasa Manushato Bhayam Daivim Mayamimam Kritva Salinathar Gatohayam. When I first read this, was it Yudhishthira talking? Yudhishthira talking in the way of revenge. I want him to get out of here, I want to teach him a lesson, and I want to kill him. Remember, this Yudhishthira talking. You would never believe such a docile, meek young man who taught compassion with the highest dharma. He is talking like this. Krishna says, Yudhishthira, you must defeat the cunning and sly Duryodhana by cunning and cleverness only. Only cleverness can conquer the clever. Oh, this is the truth. The practical advice by Krishna. Krishna essentially says, only a thief can recognize another thief. So if he is evil, resort to evil. If he is using Maya, resort to Maya. If he is using cunning and clever things, you also be cunning and clever in fighting him. Very practical advice. Krishna goes on to cite the examples of Mahabali, Ilvala Vatapi, Hiranyakashipu and others to illustrate how one should be clever in dealing with deceitful people. Remember Ilvala Vatapi? There were two brothers, and one of them could assume the form of a goat. And Ilvala would kill Vatapi, prepare food, and give it to Brahmins who would come to his place. Then after they were eating well, he would say, Vatapi, come out. So Vatapi would come out of their stomachs and all the Brahmins would be dead, and he had that power. So Agastya Mahamuni goes there, and so he says, I'll teach him a lesson too. So he prepares nice food. After Vatapi assumed the goat form and he kills him, prepares the food, Agastya ate and sat there. Then he said, Vatapi, come out. Vatapi, Agastya said, Vatapi jirno bhava. Jirno bhava means totally absorbed. I have completely digested him. There is no Vatapi that will come out. So if you are deceitful, you have to be deceitful also. You cannot be honest. Yudhishthira, who is a calm and introspective individual, now begins to taunt Duryodhana. This is quite unusual for the soft-spoken Yudhishthira, but Vyasa draws his side of Yudhishthira very nicely. Vyasa's purpose is to show that even as noble as Yudhishthira was, he has that little bit of childishness in him. When somebody is in trouble, to pour salt over their wound, make him, tease him. So he said, being afraid, you're hiding in this water, so aren't you? What happened to your arrogance? What happened to your self-respect? I won't read the verses. In the royal assembly, everyone adored you. They called you a hero, a brave man. Now you're hiding out of fear. Where is your bravery? Where is it gone? Huh? Duryodhana, you are a Kshatriya, born of noble lineage. Also, you belong to the Kuru dynasty. Remember that. So get up and fight. Don't be a coward. Having born in the Kuru dynasty, you're constantly praising yourself. I am the greatest. Knowing this, how can you hide and refuse to fight us? Yudhishthira says, refusing to fight or running away from battle are not the dharma of a Kshatriya. Now he talks about Kshatriya dharma. The definition of Kshatriya is one who protects people who are in trouble. He is a Kshatriya. So Kshatriya dharma is you have to protect the weak against the bullies. So refusing to fight or running away from battle is not Kshatriya dharma. Only a wretched fellow such as you follow that contemptible path. You don't attain heaven by running away from Kshatriya dharma. How can you live knowing that you are afraid of us? Aren't you worried? All of your kith and kins and the vast army are lying in the battle. They are dead. They fought bravely and laid down their lives for you. And now you are hiding like a coward. What's the matter with you? Yudhishthira, talking like this. That reminded me of Arjuna's. Remember Arjuna when he said, I don't want to fight? I don't want to fight. I lay down my arms and everything else. Then later on, when Uttara was trying to get hold of Arjuna was a charioteer, Uttara was the prince who was with him, and then he encouraged Uttara, you cannot run away from battle, you got to do your duty. Come on, move. Same Arjuna who says, I don't want to do it, now he said, you do it for somebody else. The shoe is another foot to change. You think you are the bravest Yudhishthira, the Duryodhana. In reality, you are a coward. You're deluded in thinking otherwise. Fight us, defeat us, rule the kingdom. Or lie dead on the battlefield. Your dharma is to get up and fight, protect the Kshatriya dharma. Duryodhana could not stand any more taunts from Yudhishthira. So he says, Maharaja, it is not surprising that fear grips living beings. Under the present circumstances, it seems natural. But I did not come here out of fear of losing my life. I lost my chariot, I lost my armor, my army is destroyed, I was left alone. I was very tired and thus came here to rest and recoup from the fatigue. I did not come here out of fear of losing my life. I didn't come here because I was afraid of you. I only came to rest, to regain my strength. Yudhishthira, you must also be very tired after 18 days of fighting. Why don't you also relax for a while? And then let your brothers and whatever army that you have come. Let's all recoup our strength, and then I'll come out and fight you single-handedly. Yudhishthira says, don't try to weasel out. We are all well-rested. I know you are well-rested too. We've been searching for you all over. Come out at once and fight with us. Destroy us, enjoy the kingdom of heaven, or be destroyed and go to that auspicious place reserved for brave warriors. Then Duryodhana comes out. He calls him Kurunandana, great among men. See how we address Yudhishthira? When you are afraid of somebody, and you, instead of going, hey, Yudhishthira, is Kurunandana. All the people on whose behalf I decide this kingdom are dead. Without them, the earth has lost all charm. All the brave Kshatriyas are gone. Just as the widow cannot enjoy all the riches of her lost husband, I cannot enjoy the kingdom when all the brave warriors are dead. Even then, I have a desire to fight and destroy you all. Because on this earth, two of us cannot exist together. Either Duryodhana should exist or Yudhishthira should exist, not both. I do not feel there's any advantage gained by fighting when I have lost Bhishma, Drona, Karna. Only a barren land exists, and what have I won? Nothing. So I think I'll go to the forest, I'll wear a deer skin, all my side has been destroyed, so leave me alone. I also ask you to enjoy the barren kingdom and go and do whatever you want to do. Yudhishthira said, no deal. You're talking like a confused bird sitting underwater. Your words have not changed my mind. Even if you think you can gift me this kingdom, I don't want it. I want to win the kingdom on my own merits. You talk about gifting now. When we pleaded with you for 5 villages, you didn't give it to us. When we pleaded with you for our half of the kingdom, you didn't give it to us. Where was your Dharma then? And now you want to gift everything? and go away to the forest. When Krishna came to bargain with you, you spurned all of his advances. Have you lost your mind now? Are you deluded? So you have only two choices. Either fight and win or die in the battle. The two of us cannot live simultaneously on this earth. Your life is in my hands now, Yudhishthira says. You can live only if I choose that you live. You have no independence to live anymore. I'll tell you why. You tried to burn us down once. Do you remember, Duryodhana? In the palace, wax palace? You let loose serpents to bite Bhima and tied him and threw him in the lake. You remember that? You fed Bhima with poison. You remember that? You tried to drown him. You remember that? You tried to violate the modesty of Draupadi in the full assembly. Do you remember that? Any one of these reasons is good enough for you to die. All of them put together is more than enough justification for you to come and fight and die. So Duryodhana could not endure the taunt, and then he comes out of the lake. And then he says, I'm not afraid of you, your brothers, Krishna, or your army. I can take you all single-handedly. Yudhishthira, the basis for glory of good people is Dharma alone. I'm telling you this in accordance with Dharma. I will fight with any one of you your choosing. Yudhishthira says, you have decided to fight us individually, so be it. Pick the weapon of your choice and fight any one among us. During that time, the rest of us will be mere spectators. I'll give you another opportunity. If you kill any one of us brothers, the kingdom will be yours. Indeed, if you die, you will surely go to heaven. Notice here, Yudhishthira's, I would call it foolishness. Yudhishthira was addicted to gambling. Remember, that's how he lost everything. One of the four vices a Maharaja should never entertain. He was in it, he lost. Here again he is wagering. Without even talking to his brothers, he says, you can choose any one of us to fight. If you win, the whole kingdom will be yours, then we will go away. What if Duryodhana had chosen Nakula or Sahadev? Because he is the master in gada yuddha. The only person who can oppose him in gada yuddha is Bhima. What if he has chosen Yudhishthira or Arjuna? So Krishna calls him and chides him. There you did it again. You didn't even talk to me. You didn't even think about it. In the fit of your anger, you said, pick any one of us and fight. You made a grave mistake. What if he picks Nakula or Sahadev? Then we are done. Luckily, and then he says, it's one thing to put your own life in harm's way, but quite another to put the lives of your brother also in harm's way without consulting them. And you have not weaned yourself from gambling. You have used the eldest brother's status to decide what is good for your younger brothers and Draupadi. That aspect of Yudhishthira has been criticized by a lot of commentators, and other people have admired it. I find that to be a weakness in Yudhishthira's character. Vyasa simply gives us what went on and let you make up your own mind. So Duryodhana then comes out and says, I have chosen gada, or the mace, as my weapon, and I am going to challenge Bhima to fight me. So he came, and there's about 20 pages of gada yuddha, as it is called. Yuddha means war, gada means mace, gada yuddha, in Mahabharata, and where there are descriptions of each blow by blow, who hit whom and where and how he was hurt, etc. I'll spare you all of that. And they start fighting. It becomes clear that both of them are very tired. Bhima is very tired. Krishna senses Bhima cannot win this war. He cannot win. In gada yuddha with Duryodhana, Duryodhana is unquestionably the champion in the world of gada yuddha. Just as Arjuna, unquestionably the champion in archery. Nobody can beat, not even Indra can beat Arjuna in archery. So Krishna is worried. So then he tells Arjuna, remind him, the pratigna or the vow that he made. When Draupadi was being shamed, Duryodhana bares his right thigh and says, "A slut, come and sit here." Bhima was very, very angry. He was biting his chattering teeth. Yudhishthira is sitting like this. Arjuna wants to say something, he won't say anything. Poor Nakula, Sahadev, they have no role in Mahabharata. They're just there to fill up Panchapandavas. They really have nothing much to say. So you're sitting there. Bhima is hurting. He says, when the time comes, I will smash your thighs with this gada and kill you. So Arjuna reminds him about showing the thigh. Then Bhima recognizes and hits him on the thigh and kills him. Gada yuddha is against the rule to hit below the navel. You cannot hit below the navel. But Krishna already said, do anything. If you want to win, it's okay. just do it. Krishna is very clever. He's very practical in some sense. Because if you keep on saying dharma, dharma, dharma and see, you will not get anywhere. So a little bit of adharma is okay. So just go ahead and do it. So afterwards, Duryodhana lay down dead, and Bhima couldn't leave him alone. He stomps on his foot. He removes his kirita. Kirita means, crown. Stomps on his head. Yudhishthira sees that. He is very, very upset. Bhima, once you have made an honest fight with him and killed him, remember he is still a king. You cannot shame the king by stomping on his crown, stomping on his head. Leave it alone. Balarama, who was there walking by at that time, sees this. He is outraged. Balarama is Krishna's brother. He is outraged. So he goes rushing to teach Bhima a lesson, at which time Krishna comes as the peacemaker between the two and pacifies them and tells him, in the passion of the war, in the passion of all the anger that is pent up in Bhima, that he cannot release all of the frustrations, all of the angers that have been building up inside of him. This is the only way he could relieve himself of all of that. So let's all forgive him. So that's where the story ends. And the Vyasa describes how the crows and vultures were waiting for Duryodhana to die, and how they were sitting. Crows were sitting on Duryodhana's body, and people looking at that began to wonder, what is the use of having all of this kingdom, the wealth, the power, and everything else? Look, you're reduced to the common denominator, with the food for the cows and the vultures. That's the lesson that Vyasa wants you to remember. Ultimately, you're the food for the cows, for the crows, and the vultures. Or if you are cremated, to be burnt. Nothing is yours. And yet, you want to acquire power, prestige, hurt other people, to be something. Why? This is why Yudhishthira says at the end, in war, there are no winners, there are no losers, only widows and orphan children. That's how Yudhishthira ends. In war, there are no winners, there are no losers, only widows and orphan children. How true? How true? Take a look at all the wars we have seen in our own lives. The Vietnam War, the Afghan War, Iraq War, all the others going on. who is the one that are suffering? The families of those soldiers. Kids who should have had a dad with them, no longer there. Women who should have had their husbands with them, no longer there. So the suffering population, but does anybody remember the ones who suffer? No. Everybody remembers one or two brave people, quote unquote, like Karna, like Duryodhana, but nobody remembers Vikarna and all the other, so many other brave people, both on the Kaurava side and Pandava side. That ends the story of this particular episode of Duryodhana's death. What I will do next time is talk about Draupadi's character. Very interesting, very brave woman. The very first feminist, Draupadi. The very first feminist. It's hard for me to paraphrase everything of Draupadi because she makes her appearance in Adi Parva, the birth of Draupadi. Then in Adi Parva you have the Swayamvara of Draupadi. Then Kunti's advice to Draupadi. In Sabha Parva you have the game of dice. And Draupadi and Yudhishthira dialogue. In Vana Parva, Draupadi laments Arjuna's absence. In Vana Parva again, Draupadi wants a Saugandhika flower and how Bhima goes and gets it for her. How Jatasvara kidnaps Draupadi and how she was rescued. How Jayadratha kidnaps Draupadi and how he was rescued. Then Draupadi as Shikandi, as Sairandri in Viratanagar during the Ragnatavasa. Remember, Bhima becomes the cook, Yudhishthira becomes the counselor, and Nakula Sahadev takes the horses and the cows. Arjuna is the eunuch. He teaches dancing and everything to the women, and Draupadi is Sairandri, like a housemaid, consort for the queen. And Draupadi in her palace, how Kichaka, festival how Kichaka was. Udyoga Parva, Draupadi laments to Sri Krishna. In Sauptika Parva, Draupadi grieves for the death of her own children. And Gandhari assures Draupadi and Kunti. In Mahaprasthanika Parva, the last Parva, Draupadi's death. So it covers number of Parvas. So I picked out wherever Draupadi appears. So picked out, and so I will talk about in general, and then I'll give you some idea on Draupadi, the brave woman. There are 4 significant women characters in Mahabharata. We have already seen one, Gandhari. I talked about Gandhari. Very brave woman. Very brave. Ties around her eyes when she finds out she's going to get married to Pandu, who is blind. Dhritarashtra, who is blind. She also ties around. She's a very chaste woman. Power of yoga. And she is able to, even Yudhishthira was afraid of her. If she opens her eyes and looks at me, I'll be burnt to ashes. She was such a noble woman. Even she could not persuade Duryodhana from his evil ways. Then there is Kunti and Madri, 2 wives of Pandu. Kunti, in some ways, is a coward, only interested in preserving her name. Don't want to be ridiculed. Confused young lady. Then Madri, there's not much about Madri in Mahabharata, And then there is Draupadi. Draupadi is the one that shines all the way through. I'll talk about, if the time permits, who is a mother? Who qualifies to be a mother? The Kunti and Karna dialogue. Kunti didn't want anybody to know Karna was her son, very first son, by Surya. At the urging of Sri Krishna, before the war, she goes to Karna tries to persuade him that I am your real mother, not Radhe, who found you, and not the charioteer who reared you up. You're real Kshatriya, not a charioteer. I am your mother. Surya also comes and says, everything that this noble woman said is true. You are her son. I am your father. Listen to her. And then Karna, I thought one of the most beautiful descriptions in the Mahabharata, tells Kunti the definition of a mother. Just because you bore me doesn't make you a mother. You abandoned me. When I cried, who comforted me? Radhe. When I was sick, who took care of me? My parents. When I needed education, who encouraged me to get educated? My parents. Who stood by me when I was in trouble? Duryodhana. Who supported me? Duryodhana. I look at them as my family and not you. You bore me, abandoned me because you are afraid. You're worried about losing your face, as you say. You couldn't. Being a minor girl, how could you bear a child out of wedlock? You would be the laughing stock of the whole society. So you sacrifice me to save yourself. That's not my definition of a mother. You are no mother. You're just here to protect your children. I'll make one deal with you. He calls her finally mother. Except for Arjuna, I will not kill any of the other Pandavas. If Arjuna dies, you still have 5 children. If I die, you still have 5 children. So you don't have to worry. The whole world recognizes you as the mother of 5 children. Nobody knows that I am your son. Even if you say it, they may not believe you. So that deal I'll make with you. I will, except for Arjuna, I will not kill any of the other Pandavas. So either way, you're left with 5 children. I thought Karna was fantastic in his argument. He also becomes a very slimy character. When Draupadi was being shamed in the Sabha, his words are very cruel, extremely cruel. He says, it's perfectly reasonable for a man to be married to as many women as possible, but for a woman to be married to more than one man is atrocious. A woman who has relationships with more than one man is called a prostitute. It's called a slut. And the only punishment for a slut is to parade them in the public naked. That's the only punishment. That's what Karna said. And then I go back and read the newspapers. Still in some villages, where some married woman was stripped naked, paraded, because she put her eyes on somebody else, which was against. Anything that woman does is punishable by the worst possible sentence. Anything a man does is perfectly acceptable to be washed under the rug. Patriarchal society. Patriarchal society. When Draupadi asked the question, did Yudhishthira lose himself first and then me, or did he lose me first and then himself? Whom did he bet first? Me or him? Bhishma couldn't answer her. Bhishma said, look, from a legal point of view, he lost himself first. Therefore, he was a slave. As a slave of Duryodhana, he had no property. So, he could not have wagered you. Therefore, you are free. You are not a slave. Legal point of view. But, he says, in this society, you are still married to Yudhishthira, and a woman is the property of the husband. It is her duty to obey and to follow what her husband says. From that point of view, Yudhishthira is right in betting you, and you are not free, you are a slave. You see, my dear, I cannot answer your question, Dharma is sukshma indeed, subtle indeed. That comes around. And you know, we should really go back and not criticize the Mahabharata, because that was the time they lived in. The time they lived in was a patriarchal society. Men ruled the whole thing. Women had... Draupadi was later on told she should not have spoken up in the assembly, because not the woman has no right to come to the Rajya Sabha and speak against the great warriors who are sitting there. That's why I call woman Draupadi woman of courage. There's a lot of courage in her. She challenged even Yudhishthira. She challenged Arjuna. She challenged Bhima. She challenged Draupadi. And she was a woman with great courage, with great conviction, with great moral character. But alone, what could she do? What could a simple woman alone who has been abused by every person who is an authority, what can she do? Except to pray. Except to pray. Set an example to other women. That's why Draupadi, Ahalya, Draupadi, Sita, Tara, Mandodari, Tata, Panchakanya, Smare, Nitya, Mahabharata, Nashaka. It's called one of the Panchakanyas. Ahalya, Draupadi. People always can make comparison with Draupadi and Sita. Sita was also kidnapped, by Ravana. Draupadi was kidnapped twice. Draupadi was shamed twice. Once in the Kaurava Sabha, once in the Viratanagar by Kichika. When you talk about Draupadi, you will mention those things. The woman who has gone through so much in her life, it brings tears to your eyes when you read Draupadi's story. And yet, Karna had the audacity to stand there and say, "You slut. You deserve to be stripped naked and paraded around you. Dukshasana, stripper." That's when the magic appears, you see. The more he pulled, the more saris came. Inexhaustible supply. One version of Mahabharata says she appealed to Krishna, and Krishna came to her rescue. The Pune edition of Mahabharata, which is considered as the standard, has no mention of Krishna coming to Draupadi. It just happens. I like that. I like to think cosmic justice. Cosmic justice looked at this woman of courage, woman of dhriti, woman of fortitude, woman of dharma, being shamed. Cosmic justice said, enough is enough. We come in and step and help you out. I would have liked that, because that would have given women who are trying desperately to fight the tyranny of men, at least they know somebody is out there looking for us. Very interesting chapter, Draupadi. Draupadi, Kunti is also quite interesting. Madri, there's nothing much to say about Madri. She is there, like Nakula Sahadev. She is there to fill up the role, but nothing happened. There's no significant things from that. So I'll talk about some of these characters next week on Draupadi. And there are Karna. We can talk about Drona, another interesting character. Oh, very interesting character, Drona. Oh, also deceitful. So you see, when you read all of these people, and you put them on a pedestal, and all of a sudden an episode comes in, wherein you say, did he do that? Yes. Vyasa says that's human nature. I'm just trying to portray. That's why Mahabharata is called the